post was nothing more than a shallow fighting position scraped into the edge of a fallow field, reinforced with sandbags that had already begun to slump and tear from weeks of rain. A few strands of concertina wire marked the perimeter, uneven and incomplete, more psychological barrier than obstacle. Beyond it stretched tall elephant grass, thick and matted, rising well above a man's head and swaying constantly in the night breeze. In daylight it looked harmless. At night it became a wall. Private First Class Michael Rourke had been on watch for nearly 2 hours when the insects changed. He didn't notice it all at once. There was no clear moment where sound stopped or started, just a subtle thinning, a shift in rhythm that registered somewhere beneath conscious thought. Rourke paused, resting the wooden stock of his rifle against the sandbags, and listened. It was August of 1966, late in the monsoon season, in Tay Ninh province near the Cambodian border. The company had established a temporary night position overlooking a narrow dirt track, believed to be used intermittently by Viet Cong supply elements. The track itself was invisible from Rourke's post, hidden behind a shallow rise and the tall grass that dominated the area. Rourke was 19 years old and had arrived in Vietnam less than 2 months earlier. He had been assigned to perimeter duty because he was new, because perimeter duty always needed bodies, and because no one else wanted it. Night guard was monotonous until it wasn't. He shifted his weight carefully, mindful of the mud beneath his boots. The ground was saturated, soft enough that careless movement could produce a sucking sound audible several meters away. He had learned quickly to move slowly, to test each step before committing his weight. Rourke scanned his sector again. The grass moved constantly, even without wind, disturbed by small animals and the settling of moisture. It made detection difficult. Anything that moved looked like everything else. This was why night ambushes worked. Viet Cong doctrine emphasized night movement and close-range engagement. Darkness neutralized American advantages in firepower and air support. It also placed a psychological burden on sentries, who were forced to interpret ambiguous sensory input for hours at a time. Rourke had been briefed on this. He had been told to trust his instincts but not overreact, a difficult balance. He adjusted the sling of his rifle and leaned forward slightly, peering through the gaps in the wire. That was when he saw it. At first, it looked like the grass settling. Then it moved again. Not upright, not fast, just a slow, deliberate shift against the pattern of wind and insects. Rourke froze. He did not raise his rifle immediately. He watched. Another movement, closer now, no more than 20 meters out. The grass parted slightly, then closed. This was not an animal. Rourke felt his pulse in his throat. Training began to surface, fragmented but insistent. He was alone in his post. The nearest listening post was 50 meters away, connected by shallow trenches that filled with water every night. If he fired now and was wrong, he would compromise the entire position. If he waited and was right, he might not get another chance. He leaned closer to the sandbags, minimizing his silhouette. The grass moved again. This time he caught the faint outline of equipment, a darker shadow against darkness, moving horizontally. They were crawling. Gun crews moved like this. Viet Cong light machine gun squads often consisted of 3 to 5 men, a gunner, an assistant, ammunition carriers, and sometimes a security element. Their role in night actions was to get close enough to establish a base of fire that could pin a position while others maneuvered. They did not rush. They crept. Rourke understood in that moment that he was not the target. The post was. He slowly reached for the field phone handset beside him. The wire was damp. The handset crackled faintly when he lifted it. He did not speak. He squeezed the call switch twice. Nothing. Either the line was dead or the sound had not carried. The grass parted again. Now he could see the outline of a barrel, low to the ground, supported by hands. The machine gun was almost in position. Rourke's options narrowed rapidly. If he fired now, he might kill the gunner, but the assistant would respond. The squad would open fire. He would be silhouetted instantly. He would be dead within seconds. If he did nothing, the gun would come fully into position. Once it opened fire, the post would be shredded. There was a third option. It was not in the manual. Rourke lowered himself slowly until he was prone behind the sandbags. He slid his rifle sideways, careful not to scrape metal on fabric or dirt. Inch by inch, he worked backward, feeling for the edge of the position. The mud was cold against his chest. He did not look up. He did not rush. The moment his boots cleared the pit, he rolled sideways and pressed himself flat into the grass. Elephant grass closed over him immediately. Visibility dropped to nothing. The smell was overpowering, wet vegetation, rot mud. Rourke began to crawl. Not away. Along the line. This decision saved his life. Moving directly away from the post would have taken him across open ground where the grass thinned near the wire. Moving laterally kept him within the thickest cover, parallel to the enemy's line of approach. He moved slowly, using elbows and knees, keeping his body pressed into the mud to avoid rustling the grass tops. Every movement was measured, every pause deliberate. Behind him, he heard a soft metallic click. The machine gun was being set. The sound carried through the grass with terrifying clarity. Rourke did not stop. He crawled for what felt like an hour but was likely less than 5 minutes. His uniform soaked through almost immediately. Mud worked its way into his sleeves, his collar, his mouth. He breathed through his nose, shallow and controlled. Enemy squads often relied on noise and panic to reveal targets. Sudden movement drew attention, stillness concealed. Rourke paused when he felt a boot brush the grass near his head. He froze completely. The boot shifted, then moved on. The enemy was closer now, passing in front of him, focused on the post they believed still occupied. This was the danger of ambushes. Once committed, attackers often develop tunnel vision of their own. Rourke waited until the sounds moved away, then continued crawling. He reached a shallow drainage ditch half filled with water. Without hesitation, he slid into it, submerging his lower body completely. The water was stagnant and foul, but it reduced his profile further and masked movement. From the ditch, he could hear whispered Vietnamese. The gun opened fire. The sound was deafening. Tracer rounds ripped through the post Rourke had abandoned moments earlier. Sandbags burst, wire snapped, dirt sprayed. Rourke pressed his face into the mud and did not move. The ambush unfolded rapidly. The machine gun fired in long bursts aimed at where Rourke should have been. Rifle fire joined in. Grenades exploded along the wire. Inside the main perimeter, shouts erupted as the unit reacted. Return fire answered. Flares shot into the sky, bathing the grass in harsh white light. Rourke closed his eyes. Light was dangerous. If he moved now, he would be silhouetted. He remained submerged, breathing shallowly, heart pounding so hard he feared it would give him away. Vietnamese doctrine emphasized disengagement once surprise was lost. Ambushes were meant to inflict damage quickly and then withdraw before superior firepower could be brought to bear. This one followed the pattern. After several minutes, the machine gun fire ceased. Voices barked orders, movement shifted away from the post. Rourke waited. He counted his breaths. He waited longer. Only when the firing died down entirely did he begin to move again. He crawled deeper into the ditch, following it away from the post and toward the interior of the American position. He knew the layout well enough to navigate by memory. At one point, a friendly voice challenged him. Rourke whispered the password. Hands grabbed him and pulled him into cover. He was shaking uncontrollably. An officer demanded an explanation. Rourke struggled to speak at first. When he did, his voice sounded distant to his own ears. The realization spread quickly. The sentry post had been destroyed. Had Rourke remained, he would not have survived. The unit repositioned defenses. Patrols went out at first light. No enemy bodies were found. The gun squad had withdrawn cleanly, leaving behind only disturbed grass and shell casings. Later analysis suggested the ambush had been intended as a probe, possibly to test response time and firing patterns. Rourke's withdrawal had disrupted the plan without the enemy realizing it. From a tactical perspective, his decision was unconventional. From a survival perspective, it was decisive. Night guard duty in Vietnam demanded judgment under uncertainty. Most sentries were taught to challenge, to fire if threatened. Few were trained to disengage alone. Rourke was not praised publicly. There was no medal. His action did not fit easily into established categories of bravery. But within the platoon, the story spread quietly. Men understood what had happened. Rourke returned to perimeter duty nights later. The grass was still tall. The insects still shifted unpredictably. But he listened more carefully now. He trusted the small changes. In Vietnam, survival often depended not on firepower, but on knowing when not to fire. Sometimes the difference between life and death was not courage in action, but restraint in silence. And sometimes the only way to defeat an ambush was to leave it before it began.